The doctor sat back in her chair and turned the screen from me. The next 10 minutes were the longest minutes of my life. "I'm sorry," she said. Those were the only words that I heard as I walked back to my car. My husband was with me, and he gave me a huge hug, and we drove home. I felt numb and exhausted. There were three things that I did that night. I cried, I cuddled with my husband on the couch, and I reminded myself of God's enduring promise. Just weeks earlier, we were getting prepared for a wonderful event in our lives. We were planning, we were making all the prerequisites, we were preparing. It was exciting. And to have all that excitement and planning and love ripped from you was heart-wrenching. In the days that followed, there was a lot of tears. I found myself going through the grief process. I felt anger, I felt hurt, I felt bitter, I felt fear, and I felt blame. There were two thoughts that kept swimming through my head. What did I do wrong? And how do I fill the hole that is in my heart? Instead of sinking into despair, I chose to do two things that I have been taught since I was a child. In the movie, Love's Enduring Promise, there is a principle that correlates with the principle of the gospel. It teaches that God can be walking right alongside you and you can fall. God's promise isn't that He won't let you fall or that it won't hurt or that you won't cry, but rather His promise is there will be no tears. Through the all-encompassing power of the atonement, there will be no tears. Faith isn't believing or not believing that an event will happen, but rather that at the very end of this life, there will be no tears, that through the atonement, all will be made right. As I held on to that belief, I made that the very fighting belief of when those thoughts came back into my head. When despair came back, I replaced it with that thought of God's enduring promise. The second principle that I was taught since I was a little girl was hold on to the light that you already have. I chose through this process to tell my neighbors and friends and my children, and as I allowed them to physically and emotionally help me, then I, in turn, physically and emotionally helped them back. I accepted their light, and they accepted mine. My heart grew, and a wonderful thing happened. My heart was filled. I was happy again. There are a lot of times in our lives where you may feel discouragement or despair or wonder how you're going to get on to the next hour. There are two principles that can help you with that. Remind yourself of God's enduring promise that there will be no tears, and hold on to the light you already have and magnify it.